Welcome to another Car Care Source How Do I video. Today we're going to talk about 10 tips for getting your car running after winter storage. Won't be long now and we'll be saying the snow is melted and the days are getting warmer. And you know what? That means only one thing. It's time to get our classic car out of storage. Seems like it was so long ago that we stored it away. Is it going to run? If it was properly stored and is taken out of storage properly, it will. First thing that needs to be done is to drain the coolant and flush the cooling system. Yep, I know, just did that a few months back and haven't even driven the car, but it's got to be done. Most modern coolants contain rust inhibitors, and over the winter these additives have been working their magic, loosening and softening any rust deposits in the car's cooling system. These need to be flushed out, otherwise they may plug things up later on. Once the cooling system is flushed, refill it with your normal coolant mix and the cooling system is ready. It's time to move on to the next step. With the cooling system drained, flushed, and refilled, it's time to do the same thing to the fuel system. First thing to do is drain out any leftover gas from the tank and the carburetor and then flush out the fuel lines. This needs to be done to get rid of any sludge that may have settled in the tank, as well as clear out any condensation that might have developed in the fuel during the winter. Dirt and condensation in the fuel system won't make that first startup any easier. Well, I know enough about engine fluids already, but we're almost done talking about fluids, I promise. Every car that has been in storage needs a post-storage oil change. Just like with the gas, condensation can develop and contaminate the oil. Also, acid can develop, and if allowed to circulate throughout the engine, it can also cause damage. So take the time, dump the oil, change the filter, and put in fresh oil. Well, we're getting there. The oil's changed and we're ready to start moving on. Now that we're done with the fluids, we'll take a good look at the engine itself. After several months in storage, there's no doubt that all the oil is drained down to the oil pan and the upper cylinders are dry. To avoid damage, pull the spark plugs and squirt some upper cylinder lubricant into each cylinder. This will help get everything moving freely without damage. Phew, got a lot accomplished. Maybe it's time to go have a coffee or even a beer. If your battery hasn't been on a float charger or battery tender for the winter, you might as well get it ready now. Take the battery out of the car and put it in a well-ventilated, protected area. Connect it to a charger and allow enough time for the charger to bring it to full charge. If you're not ready to put the battery back into the car once it is fully charged, make sure you put the battery someplace where it won't be exposed to the cold. Alright, this is going to take a while for the battery to charge. That's okay though, we still have plenty to do while we're waiting. Next, the brake system needs to be prepared. Brake fluid has an affinity for water and may absorb quite a bit while a car is in storage. So you need to verify that your brake system is working properly before you even think about heading out on that first cruise of the system. Your best bet is to drain out all the brake fluid and refill with fresh brake fluid rather than just bleeding the system and topping it off. Once the brake system is refilled, test it to make sure all the brakes, even the parking brake, are working. Now it's time to reinstall your fully charged battery and do it a bit, and also we need to do a bit more work on the engine. Once the battery is installed with the spark plug still removed, go back and see step 4. Use the ignition key to crank the engine a few times. This is going to ensure that the engine lubricant you put into the cylinders earlier is spread throughout the cylinder, coating everything to prevent damage. You should keep cranking the engine until you see the oil light go out or the needle on the oil gauge starts to move up. Well, we're getting there. It's time to put the spark plugs back in and reconnect the wires in the right order. Once this is done, take the air filter off and if necessary, prime the carburetor. We don't really recommend using starter fluid. In fact, we recommend avoiding it if possible. It's a highly flammable substance, and it's better to avoid it if it's possible. So at this point, leave the air filter off, get in the car, make sure it's not in gear, and give it some gas to set the choke and hit the ignition. At this point, you're probably sitting back enjoying the sound of your engine. Ah, fantastic. The car woke up from its winter nap just fine. But here's the hard part. We need to avoid the, what do I want to say? Avoid the temptation to rev that engine. Just let it idle. Let it reach full operating temperature at a nice idle speed. Now you can take it out for that first ride with the engine at full operating temperature. But you really don't want to go far. You don't want to push the car too hard. Just go for a nice slow cruise, maybe just around your neighborhood a little bit. Bring the car back, check for leaks, check pressure levels on your oil, check fluid levels, make sure they're still full, and finally also check your tires. Make sure that the air pressure is set to the manufacturer's recommended setting. Now that you've gotten your car out of storage and running, it's time to begin thinking about getting it looking its best again. There's still some stuff to do. We need to look at the exterior of the car and making it look its best. We have to look at washing, preparing the paint for polish and waxing, the appearance of our wheels and tires, and cleaning and protecting the interior. We'll have another video on that soon. Thanks for watching, and remember, you can get the things you need to keep your car looking and running great at Car Care Source, www.carcaresource.net.